Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial. I have just taken off my jumper and put on a shirt because it is way too hot in England right now, and I am joined by Recollect to break down this next game. What have we got in store, mate?
We have got ourselves the Hawks taking on CGA, and it's going to be an interesting one. This is probably going to be quite a bit closer, I think, than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yep.
I feel as though, while CGA does come in as favorites, the Hawks do have quite a bit, to show for themselves. They have quite a solid bot lane. We've seen Charlie's Thresh absolutely pop off in some of the previous games, and Wasteland's ability to gain CS leads and generate those into more team fighting based advantages later on down the line has improved throughout the tournament. So I'm excited to see how much those sort of changes are going to come through and how close this one's going to end up being.
Yeah, as we are going to be getting the rosters on our screen there, talked about the bot lane for Hawks. Charlie has been a standout performer, as well as Wasteland in the mid lane, getting those CS advantages. But I feel like you're not going to be able to do the same sort of thing that you've been doing against these lower tier teams against the like of CGA, because I look at someone like Kaito, find it very hard to believe that Wasteland's going to be able to get significant advantages against the man in the mid lane for Crest Gaming Academy.
Yeah, I mean, Kaito absolutely looks like one of the best mid laners in this tournament. There's very little doubt in my mind in terms of that regard. Probably top three, I think, is a fair assumption, with the others up there being likely UGO, Creative, and Wasteland himself being rounding out the top four. So I think that, in that regard, definitely a name to keep an eye out for. And I think that mid lane matchup is going to be very interesting to see, who is going to be able to gain that advantage, because I think that when we look at the rosters as well, this jungle matchup is something that's going to kind of be slept under the radar a little bit. But Funawi has looked really solid, I think, fundamentally within this tournament. And I think Anko Chen is kind of probably one of the most slept on junglers in general. It's actually pretty solid too. So I'm excited to see how the mid jungles do end up moving around the map, because when we look towards the bottom lane, both of these bot lanes can absolutely take over games and dominate. So whoever is able to gain those advantages through that mid jungle can start to transition that towards their bottom side of the map, and potentially from there we can see the snowball start to begin. So my eyes are absolutely on that mid jungle this time around to see who can gain that early game advantage.
And we shall see as we jump into Champion Select whether these teams will be prioritizing that mid-jungle 2v2 as heavily as we are, Recollect. It looks like that is going to be the case, as we've already got a fair few bans focused around the middle portion of the map.
Yeah, I mean, just to go through them quickly, Wasteland obviously showing a very big preference onto that Victor if playing those farming style lanes, and in reality, Kaito can play so many different mid lanes. You've got to ban all of them out if you want to be careful. So makes a lot of sense to see these bans coming through so far. But with the current jungle pool pinched, I mean, things like the Diana rises in priority, things like the Xin Zhao, and though we haven't seen Diana Yasuo really come through here, it would be very interesting to see if these teams would elect to opt into that one.
Doesn't really sound like a Wasteland pick too much, though. The Yasuo has tended a lot more towards these sort of control mages. Will be the Irelia locked in for CGA, actually. So this one does exist as a flex pick. Momo and Kaito have both played it. So we'll have to see as we get further throughout the drafts where the where that pick's going.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, can go pretty much anywhere. And both these players, I think, have actually played it as well. I believe Momo played it on day number 1. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. But with Thresh Aphelios open, you have to feel like the Hawks are absolutely going to want to pick that one up for themselves. And with that Aphelios lock-in, the Thresh hover coming through, it's just a very stable bot lane. I mean, they kind of facilitate each other's weaknesses quite well. And on top of that, it means that you can play so aggressively, and it's staple picks for both players. We've seen Charlie absolutely pop off on this Thresh, so it makes a lot of sense for us to see that come through here for the Softbank Hawks.
Yeah, also works as a great anti-dive tool against the Irelia. Wants to get deep on top of you. It's a little bit harder to do against the likes of the Aphelios and the Thresh. Now, we haven't actually seen any junglers for Funawi other than this Lee Sin and this Jarvan, so with both of those off the table, the CGA jungler will have to pull out something a little bit new. I'm assuming it's not going to be the Nautilus. I think that's much more likely going to be in Primo's hands.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing Nautilus jungle just yet, although we did see some crazy buffs a few patches ago. No, instead, we're going to see the Nidalee. I'm not actually a massive fan of this, because I think you're kind of lacking in terms of your setup in at least one of the solo lanes, so you kind of have to help facilitate that in by either going all in, crowd control bot side with a CC based AD carry, but you're playing that into Thresh, which is kind of awkward, or a CC based champion in the other solo lane. And this Vladimir, we've seen it earlier today, I believe, so it has shown a bit of emphasis to play that scaling side, and that sounds just like something Wasteland would do.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, is incredibly good against the dive that CGA have got. Nautilus Hook? No. Turning into blood. Nidalee Spear? No, I'm turning into blood. Aurelia? No. I'm going into my pool and I'm fine. And then you can start turning around, re-engaging onto people and really setting yourself up for success. I like that Hawks are now banning out a couple of the more mid-lane champions. I think it's very important with a Vladimir that you secure him a decent matchup and one where he can actually exist in the lane and doesn't just get hard bullied out.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two styles, right? You can either go for a more lane-oriented sort of mid-lane pick that can pulley out the Vladimir, deny him getting minion access so he can't sustain, or you can run something like the Kassadin into it and you just farm into it and you're happy. The issue with that, though, is that you can't really go the Kassadin route because you've already got Nidalee, so the amount of magic damage there is palpable, and at the same time, you've also got the issue of Nidalee wanting to snowball the early game, and Kassadin wanting to just take a breather and just sort of, wait it out until about 60 minutes into the game so you just win. Having said that, though, it's going to be interesting here for CGA because they kind of already elected themselves into showing they wanted CC-based mid, which kind of makes me think something along the lines of TF, even though it's not a Kaito champion, really. But you can't really play that into Vlad, so it's kind of for CGA at this point to make the adaptation, I think.
Yeah, potentially a little bit of a flaw in their plans, a hole in their draft, but maybe they're going to be finding something interesting to fill it out. Hawks going for this jungle pick, which we don't believe we've actually seen it yet today, but obviously is still very strong in the jungle.
Yeah, we see it quite a bit into the melee-based champions with the idea that he can just auto you down and do whatever he wants to, and combine that with this Nautilus already locked in, likely wanting to take away those stats. So the Trundle pick makes a decent amount of sense. Can farm quite quickly as well, so a solid enough matchup into something like this Nidalee. This Camille blind isn't actually that bad, really, because you're kind of assuming that this Vladimir is going towards the mid lane, and Vladimir is okay into Camille, but I'd still rather play the Camille side.
Yeah, obviously could be the Aurelia as well. A lot of flexibility still with your solo lane picks. And I feel like something like the Ezreal makes a lot of sense. Primo wants to get roaming on this Nautilus as much as he can, in which case a weak side AD carry that can just farm up, like the Ezreal, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little bit awkward, though, at the same time, because this Gwen is still on the table, which has a good matchup into both the Aurelia and also the Camille, and that is exactly what they go to do. And Ricky has played this one before, didn't have the greatest success in the world, I don't believe, but has also looked fairly solid on it as well, so it really is a bit of a mixed bag. But this Gwen pick is definitely something to keep an eye out for as the game goes later and later. And I feel as though both of these teams kind of electing for 2-2 based comps, where two members playing for dive, two players playing more defensively. So you've got the poke in the Ezreal and the Nidalee with the dive from Camille Aurelia, and at the same time you've also got that defensive nature of the Thresh of Helios lane versus the dive from Gwen Vlad. So it's going to be interesting to see which two is going to end up winning out, the defensive or the aggressive from both teams. But that is kind of what's going to dictate this one. Having said that, you always want to play towards the aggressor if you're going to be making plays, so I'm excited to see where these journalists do elect to move their pathing. Because to me, I'm expecting to see a lot of action happen on the top lane, because that side lane matchup could be brutal if you end up losing it.
Yeah, I feel like this Gwen versus either the Aurelia or the Camille, we'll have to see where those are locked in. It will be Momo piloting the Camille. Feels like if either of these players gets a big advantage in this lane, they can start just walking over it. Notwithstanding just the champions that they're playing, but just these players in general are a couple of fairly aggressive players. So if Finawi or Anchor are really able to get part of the map snowballed in one direction, then you could start to take over the game a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, I believe, with the way these two top lanes like to play. Momo will be the aggressive player, will absolutely want to jump onto your face and make you pained, but Ricky is absolutely happy to just snap back and snip. So it's going to be exciting to see the battle of the scissors, who's going to end up winning out of that one between these two scissor sisters.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not sure how great it is for the Camille side. I feel like I would much rather pilot the Gwen, as I said before, because with those steel caps, it becomes quite hard to really do a whole lot. Obviously, that is mitigated both ways, but from level 6 onwards, I think that Ricky kind of begins to gain an advantage in that matchup. But even from level 1, if you do start E, Gwen could be very, very powerful with that on-hit damage. When we look across the board as well, it's a difficult one here for Funawi too, because I think that the crowd control isn't actually easy to set up within the other members of the composition, right? The easiest member is obviously Primo in that bot side, but doing that into a Thresh at Felios lane, I mean, it's gonna be tough. Like you can do it,
Yeah.
but it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially with Ezreal as your AD carry. You don't really want to play towards the Ezreal. I'd much rather see Primo leave the lane and just move towards mid lane, try and impact that wasteland matchup. Because if you can force that pull, that's about 20 seconds where the Aurelia can play hyper aggressive in that matchup, and Vladimir just has to completely social distance from the lane.
Yeah, and it also costs like a decent chunk of your health bar if you are wasting, so it's not like you could just do it for free just to burn the cooldown either. I am quite worried though, for the side of CGA, because I see a lot of champions that are fairly squishy here until you start getting these couple items. Momo and Kaito definitely going to be able to stand up against a lot of what the Hawks want to do once you get to that 3-item point, once you are in the late game and you've got your Starax, stuff like your Gordra, because your Divine Sunder is online. But I feel like there's going to be a period where Waysand is going to be very strong on like a 1-item spike. We'll be like level 9 as well on the Vladimir, so we'll have that upgrade on the transfusion fully thought through. There isn't really anyone on CJ that can actually stand in the face of this Vladimir and take the damage.
I mean, that's kind of one of the weaknesses of CGA, is that lack of frontline, but also that lack of easy defensive access, defensive tools available. Because when you think about it, who can actually stop the Vladimir? I feel like there isn't a whole lot of people that can do. I mean, Nautilus is going to have to play to engage unless Camille can get into backline, so it's going to be interesting to see. But we got dueling here early on at level 1. A little bit of a smack from the Trundles. He just takes a munch out of the Cougar there in the mid lane.
Oh, it's a little bit rude from Funawi in the mid lane, just throwing those spears out. As we do have the game on our screen right now, a semi-final between CGA Academy and the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming Academy. In the rune choices, interesting to see the Conqueror for Funawi's Nidalee. Is this something that we'd anticipate?
I mean, it has been a little bit of an adaptation that Nidalee players have been making as of late, is that they're electing more for that sort of Conqueror rune of choice. I've heard on the grapevine a couple of people talking about tank Nidalee. We're not going to see it. I hope we don't see it. But in all honesty, Nidalee kind of gets some value from the electrocute, but you do end up falling off quite hard if you do that. But the Conqueror rune get a little bit more value as the game goes on, so it makes a little bit of sense considering the way that CGA really wants this game to go. And you have more than enough base damage in your kit to really be looking for kills anyway without the electrocute, so it's not really necessary. At the same time, though, it's fine from them to run this. The interesting part for me, though, is that we are seeing that Guardian Thresh, despite this being a very defensive lane already for CGA. So, Charlie kind of expecting a lot of attention to come their way.
Lands the fly off beautifully, stopping Chico from aggressing forward. Actually take a fair chunk of his health bar, so will be forced to burn through those pots. Has gone for the biscuits as well as the tier, so Chico fully recognizing that his job in this lane is to just play passive, not go for anything too aggro, and scale up into the monster that we know an Ezreal can be.
Yeah, absolutely can come online. On top of that, you can just wait for your jungler to pass towards the bot side, because we know Funawi moving towards that bot side. And can I just talk for a second? Momo doing so well to utilize that passive to get solid trades here into Ricky, because Ricky is the one with the minion wave advantage, but the health advantage is massively Momo favored. Oh, never mind.
No, it's still there. I wouldn't call that massive anymore, but it's still an advantage. Obviously, that Grasp the Undying is very useful for providing a little bit more lane sustain. Interesting to note that both of these top laners have gone towards the TP Ignite, so should get pretty spicy as Momo lands the stun and gets the solo kill for first blood.
Yeah, good stuff there from Momo, barely surviving as well. The minion's not quite doing enough. I think that must have been single-digit HP there for the CGA top laner, but the kill comes through, and this is what I was talking about a moment ago with Momo just trading so well onto Ricky. Howler's getting minion blocked to absolute hell and is taking a lot of damage for it.
But it's a good advantage in a lane that we'd already talked about as potentially being quite volatile. Both these players, both these top laners love to scrap it out, and we saw that here.
Yeah, and it's just a case of the sustained advantage here for Momo, and Ricky goes in aggressively and just doesn't respect the fact that Momo has that empowered Q available, and just the clapback from the Camille can be so devastating at all parts in the game. That's the spell you've got to keep track of, and that particular moment, Ricky wasn't able to track it perfectly.
Yes, so that Momo is sat at a lead, has already picked himself up the Sheen. Not disaster for the Hawks by any means. Ricky will be scaling into this matchup, and like he talked about, once he hits that level 6 mark, probably has a bit more fun matching up against the Camille. As it stands though for the rest of the early game, no ganks from either junglers, but Finawi, recognizing that Anchor-chan's probably done this buff skip clear that a lot of people like to do, where they don't go for the Krugs, is just able to pick those up himself.
Yep, in exchange, Anko-chan going to end up setting up that ward there at the Raptors to keep an eye on that and also get a little bit of jungle information. So both the junglers doing that, but Kaito is taking a decent chunk to Wasteland, but that electrocute trades it perfectly back.
Yeah. Do you see Ricky a little bit stuck under his tower here? It's a big wave being shoved in by Momo as he gets the trade-off with the scissor kick from his legs. But putting the Gwen further and further behind.
Quite a bit of damage comes through from that Camille just because of the base damage that you do get from that precision protocol can do so much work. And, you know, credit where credit's due, right? Because in my opinion, I think Ricky should be the winner in this lane matchup. So Momo doing a great job. Oh, good hook.
Oh, onto Howler, who gets exhausted immediately. Still has the heal, still has the flash available. Hasn't been forced to use those. Finawi is in the area. Good hook landing from Charlie, though, as he's able to continue going forward. Ignite will drop down Primo in a second's time, but gets the shield just in time. Finawi flashing forward, leaping forward, trying to get the kill, but will get stunned up by the Gravitum. No one has fallen on the bot side as Chico, with the last Mystic shot, takes down Howler. Will be flashing away, though, as Anchor-chan recognizes he doesn't win the 2v3 as he'll be forced to flash away himself. Wasteland is on the move, doesn't have the ultimate though, and will just be forced to back away. A close fight, but going in favor of CGA.
Yeah, CGA, they have the jungle advantage, and they've also got the slight mechanical outplay on their side. It means that Chico is able to pick up a nice kill onto Howler. And it feels like CGA, they've got themselves a little advantage gained so far in this early game, but they are the ones that are in control. And the amount of CS that is being, you know, could have been denied there for Howler, it's quite lucky for the Aphelios player. But let's just take a look at this hook. It's beautiful stuff there from pretty much to land that one onto Howler. The Guardian keeps the AD carry alive a little bit longer. And they start to turn it around. It looks really good here for the side of SHG. They land every single spell they need, but then Funawi shows up and it's time to head for the hills. And with that flash traded off, I feel like if Charlie hits this flash play onto Chico, maybe things are a little bit different, but it does go wide and the Mystic shot lands onto Howler, taking out the AD carry. And from here, Anko-chan feels like he sees blood. There's going to be a chance to get this kill, and then you get Hook engaged. And at this point, it's just a 1v3. You can't do anything, my friend.
Oh, this is a 1v3. No, it's a 2v2 in the mid lane as Kaito forced back. Funai was in the area, though, to save his mid laner. CJ are continuing to build this strong lead for themselves. Wasteland will be forced to pull away as Charlie is in the area as well, but won't push anything further. Yeah, 1.5 gold advantage for CGA right now. Not absolutely massive, but it's a very, very good sign.
Yeah, CGA, they are showing those signs of life in the early game that we wanted them to show because, you know, arguably the red side composition looks very strong as the game goes later and later. So CGA needing to be the ones to push the tempo, needing to be the ones to gain that advantage, and Ricky with the dash could be in trouble.
Yeah, skip and slashing forward will just be dipping and dashing out of there as the needlework isn't quite enough to take down Finawi, and Momo grabs his second kill of the game. Yeah,
there's no items really on this Gwen just yet. Only got that amplifying tome, and the steel caps are picked up, so that will help to deal with the matchup and how rough it is at the moment for Ricky. But can you imagine a little bit more damage, and that Gwen could have absolutely turned that one around. That was plenty of damage considering there was no items at all available. Funawi does end up getting out with their life though, and it's a nice pickup there for the side of CGA.
Wasteland looking for a big trade onto Kaito here. That electrocute proc. Half HP onto this Irelia already, and this is what we've been talking about. If Wasteland is able to find himself into a nice spot with the itemization, there isn't really anyone on CJ that can properly face tank the Vladimir.
Yeah, the only thing is, though, at the moment is the fact that Kaito has got that little bit of extra healing thanks to the Vamp Scepter, so can heal up fairly quickly in exchange for one of those pots, and it's back to full health at this point. So Wasteland, I want to see that early Oblivion or pickup, and at that point, you can start to imagine this Vladimir can do a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive into the Aurelia side. As at the moment, even though Kaito is up quite a bit of CS, obviously big wave, so Wasteland will pick up a decent amount, but CGA, they're still trying to punish towards the top side. Funawi creating a split map state here on the top side potentially, but not going to be taking.
Oh, it's unfortunate. It doesn't end up wasting him any more time. Yeah. Ricky doesn't have flash, obviously. Also, the Ignite and the Needlework ultimate are down. Rift Herald summoned. I think CGA are just looking to take this tower and then maybe go for the dive. But with Anchor-chan in the area, that will not be the case. Oh no!
I mean,
20 HP.
Yeah, that's a bit of an oof.
It's unfortunate.
I don't think it'll matter in the long run. I think that what will happen is, Ricky will push in the next wave, Momo will push it back, and then the tower will fall. But it's definitely suboptimal if you wanted to buy. Thankfully, Momo can still buy the Divine Syndra. Can you imagine if the Camille was just slightly off in terms of gold?
Oh, that'd be pretty sad. Chico. Arcade shifts himself away. For Caesar Cleanse as well, though. Maybe not necessary. But wants to stay safe in this bot lane. Has fallen to a little bit of a CS deficit, but with that kill, gold is likely fairly even between these two AD carries.
Yeah, as you say, that kill really starting to, really helping out quite a bit with that gold situation towards the bot side. And if we just sort of take a step back here and just sort of look at the game state in general, it feels as though, CGA, they've got themselves a decent gold lead as Momo trading as a Ricky here a little bit.
Yeah, Divine Sundra versus Plated Steel Caps. I think that's a trade that Momo is going to win every single time. Howler and Charlie are looking for something here. There is no cleanse available for Chico as he's forced to Arcane Shift away. The True Shot Barrage, though, landing the damage onto Howler, who's got good guns, but they don't shoot fast enough. Primo, one more hit would take him out, but it doesn't come through, and Charlie drops as well. It's a 2v2 kill for the CGA bot lane, but my, that was close.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very close there for the side of SHG, and it just feels like if you're getting a melee range of a Nautilus as an AD carry, it's usually a little bit suboptimal there. As they try for the cheese play, but it doesn't end up working out. I believe Howler just CC'd at the very, very end, meaning you can get that last auto off to kill Chico. And it does just end up being a 2 for 0, and it feels as though, CGA, every play they've gone for so far has ended up working out in their favor. Whereas if you flip the script, the Hawks not necessarily having that same amount of execution that they might want within these players, as it feels like they haven't really been able to get their desired result at all so far.
Yeah, and this is a play we see Howler and Charlie think they've got the advantage in this trade, but Chico crucially had just enough mana to Arcane Shift away after the hook came out, which means he could throw out the True Shot Barrage, and whilst Howler did a very good job trying to kite away from Primo, ultimately wasn't enough as the AD carry dropped, and then Charlie, after getting hit by the spear, was soon to follow.
Yeah, and it means now that the Chico is so fed on, this Ezreal is massively accelerated over what, was the situation where CGA, they were at the CS deficit within that bot lane state. It looked like somewhere where the Hawks could start to move towards, but they hadn't made any plays towards it, and in the isolated 2v2 play, well, it wasn't so isolated.
As we see Anchor-chan taking a fair chunk from that Nidalee Spear. Hasn't really had the impact that he would like to on this Trundle pick. Still sat 0-0-0 as the hook lands onto Howland. And he takes 70% of his health bar for free. That's another kill landing for CGA. And it's really looking dire for the Hawks. They are able to trade one back here onto Funawi as Kaito is trying to Kaito as much as he can, but will get taken down before he gets the last auto. So, a couple kills in the mid lane for the Hawks, but the bot lane is still very CGA favored.
Yeah, it's just a very odd situation to me because it's clear to me during that replay that there was no Guardian available here for Charlie. So Howler cannot step up like that. You can't step that far forward unless you have that defensive property within your thresh. And at this point, the Ezreal is so inflated. I mean, we're going to see the play here in the mid lane instead. So Anko finding his way onto Funawi. Nothing too special just yet. But the Trundle elects to go for that all-in. And, oh, we got to play on the top side now. Momo's in trouble.
Yeah, not quite slowed down by the needlework. But the bite does land from Anchor-chan, who takes a fair chunk of his health bar in trade. Won't be fooling though, as it's a kill for Ricky, and all of a sudden in the past couple of minutes, Hawks have made a couple of those proactive plays that we needed to see from them.
they're starting to show some signs of life, and it's onto the key members, right? It's those solo laners we spoke about starting to get the kills. I mean, Ricky's got one now, Wasteland's got one, and it means that they can start to come back into their matchups a little bit. I mean, Ricky is still going to be massively behind, do not get me wrong, but once this Quinn gets that Rift Maker, gets that Nashers or potentially some of the other itemization, gets to 2 items regardless of what those 2 items are, she begins to come online quite heavily in pretty much every matchup. So I'm excited to see what does happen if Ricky can get to that point, but still heavily behind Momo, and as such I want to see Momo continue to push, continue to be aggressive, and utilize that gold advantage, just like CGA are utilizing their numbers advantage here to gain that blue buff away for Funawi.
Yeah, and they absolutely need to keep doing stuff like this, because if you let this Vladimir or this Gwen, and this Gwen rather, get to the late game, it looks really bad for you. So pressuring on this bot lane tower is a good idea. They've already taken one in the top side, and could even look for a dive here. Primo does have the dredge line available, and Funawi's in the area, but they're just going to be backing away as Anka-chan clears out vision around the mid lane.
Yep, and I feel as though as the Hawks you can't really contest the Dragon response, and Anko-chan is going for that vision solo.
Oh, wonderful interrupt there with the ice pillar.
I love that. That's such a cool interaction. I don't know. That's one of my favorite interactions. Just you just spawn something in front. As a former Nivea player, I can tell you it's very, very fun to do.
Towler, maybe a little bit too far up here. Charlie, though, acting as bodyguard. Has the Guardian available now, so Howler a little bit safe with the shield bow as well. Can tank up a bit more damage than he would have otherwise. Does Control dot spout out the Nidalee traps then? What?
It should do.
Yeah, that was...
I'm pretty sure it does.
A little bit of a weird one. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Charlie stepping up, looking for the hook onto Chico, who knows the range of that ability oh so well. Doesn't even burn the arcane shift. Might be in a little bit of trouble here. Primo is making his way back down to the bot side. Teleports are coming out. The dredge line doesn't connect, but the depth charge does. Kaito lands the 3-person Vanguard's Edge into the 4-man stun and is popping off like an absolute madman. A couple more kills to the Irelia as Momo all-ins the Vladimir in the mid lane. Wasteland looking like a waste man goes down for the first time this game.
Yeah, CGA, they flip that entire play around. Great stuff there from Kaito to teleport in and just turns the entire dive dynamic around. It feels as though SHG, they're the ones mid the tempo, they're the ones making the play, they're the ones who can be proactive in the moment, but it's not going to work out. And because that play does go so poorly, it now means there's no one to defend the mid tower, and the Herald starts to spawn. CGA, they can start to inflate this game, start to snowball in the way that they want to, and they've already got themselves a 5,000 gold lead. And with that second Herald charge, you have to feel as though CGA, they're in a very commanding position in this one, and I want to see them keep it clean and snowball this game.
As we did see this dive coming out, Primo popping back over the wall, but not quite in time to save Chico's life. But it was an excellent response from the members of CGA.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Look at the Vanguard's Edge come through here from Kaito. It's just beautiful. And then the flawless duet stun comes through. It's just 3 quick, easy kills for this Aurelia. And Wasteland was trying to move, got caught out by Momo. And unfortunately, my friend, when you are playing range versus melee, regardless of the champions, you don't want to be up close and personal, and Momo makes him pay with a little slice to the back of the neck.
Yeah, definitely going to need to see a doctor for that one, and well, I'm not sure if the NHS will be able to help you out with that one. As it stands, though, like you mentioned, very big lead for CGA. Drake spawning in a minute and 30's time. They're going to be looking to pick that one up and continue to snowball this game. Wasteland, though, not afraid to play up and aggressive, using that rocket belt to get a chunk onto Kaito. But like we've already seen, when you've got some lifesteal on Irelia, your health bar basically just goes to full every single wave.
Yeah, you need to pick up that Oblivion Orb at some point here for Wasteland if you really want that to try and stick. But what's key here is I think Wasteland isn't aware of the power of Kaito right now, because that Aurelia did get so many kills. It's now got that Bork as well as the healing cut online. I actually think that in that 1v1, if it is a 1v1, Kaito can win quite well, actually, if it's played well. So Wasteland has to be a little bit careful, in fact. So I think that aggression is only because Anko-chan is there, and that's why Kaito is aware that there might be something fishy going on.
Looking towards the top side, though, we do have Momo on his Camille, who, whilst he did get a fairly strong advantage in the early game, has properly taken a hold of it and snowballed it very effectively. Has this 40 CS lead up against Ricky, has completed the Ravenous Hydra as well. So in terms of a split push threat, I don't think you can get much scarier than this Camille.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned how important the side lane was, the solo laners in general in this one, and the winning side laner at this point is Momo in the top side. There's a massive full item advantage gained for the Camille over the Gwen. There's nothing that can really be done if you are a Ricky, so it also feels like thanks to that advantage, CGA, they're able to set up the vision control first, and trying to enter into this poke composition of the Nidalee Ezreal combination, it's very difficult to do.
Which just takes a good 60% of his HP. Basically no commitment from CGA, and that means that the Hawks can't commit onto contesting this Drake, and it will be sell point secured by the blue side team.
Yes, they are. They do manage to pick up that dragon for themselves, and it feels as though CGA, they are now firmly in the driving seat, and they arguably couldn't have gotten a much better, dragon soul spawn than this ocean soul.
Yeah.
For both of their solo laners, they're going to be autoing quite a lot, doing quite a bit of damage, and that sustain is going to be massive. So, that would have been easily half health, by the way.
Yeah, that would have been. Immortal Shield Bow doesn't help you a lot in those situations because obviously you're not stacking up that magic resist, and whilst a little bit of poke can be dissuaded through that itemization, you only need a couple of spears to hit, and you are having to go straight back to bases. DJ looking to push it in the mid lane, but because of that Infernum, Howler is able to stand up and clear these minions.
It's also just not optimal if you're going to have it be procced by poke, because it feels as though you can't actually gain any value from the shielding part itself, because the enemy just waits. They just go, yep, you can't do anything. There's no minions nearby, so you can't lifesteal back, so you're just going to stick on that low health anyway. So when it gets triggered in this way, it just feels horrible as an AD carry. So Howler, also at a numbers disadvantage, defending that mid tower, can't really step up. So at this point, it feels like CJ, they are firmly in control of this one. I want to see them set up that vision control and be prepared, as they don't actually need to start the Baron, really. There's an argument to be made that, they are ahead enough that scaling isn't going to be that big of a factor unless they throw. So you can actually just play for the Ocean Soul, and then you get pseudo-scaling from the stats it gives you in combat. Thanks to all of that, healing you're going to get and sustain. So in reality, I think CGA, if they pick up that Ocean Soul, suddenly their composition becomes the one that scales significantly better, because Ocean Soul is just kind of broken. It's just a case of, at that point, CGA, you just feel like you're firmly in control. You feel very comfortable. You feel like the game is completely yours, so you don't need to push for this Baron.
Well, and that's the sort of thing that we see from V3 Academy a lot, right? They don't have the quickest games because they know that the best way to win a game is to put it in a position where it's impossible for the enemy team to do anything. That was how Samsung White won an entire world championship. Just make it really difficult for your opponent to play, bleed them out, take away all of these big late game objectives that grant you so much power, and just basically let you end a game for free. So I like this from CGA, not overstepping, but still trying to secure some vision around this Baron so they can continue to posture and be a threat.
It's just a case of death by 1,000 cuts. That's all that CGA needs to do. You don't necessarily need to be super aggressive. Just take your time. Keep your vision towards the Baron so the enemy can't do it, but Charlie might be caught.
Yeah, Dredge line connects. There goes the depth charge as well. Flashes into the True Shot barrage. Chico with the snipe.
That's a sad time. That's unfortunate there for the support there from the side of SHG, but Trundle scored too.
Ooh, the exhaust goes down, but the slow from the ice pillar just enough to keep him alive. Howler might not be so lucky as Momo jumps directly on top of him and will cut through that Immortal Shield Boat like it wasn't even there. That's a couple dead on the side of the Hawks. Do CGA look towards this Baron?
Yeah, they absolutely do. I mean, it feels as though CGA, they played it slow. They waited for the Hawks to make a mistake, and the mistakes have now come. I mean, Anko-chan can't really contest this one either. It's a 3 versus 5 defense. So for now, he's just going to jump into that one and bait with basically no contest at all. CGA now in a very comfortable spot in this one. They got themselves a 10,000 gold lead. And with this opportunity, with their 1-3-1 composition, can start to siege down these towers and be an absolute nightmare for the Hawks.
Jump into this replay, and this is what securing vision in the enemy jungle does. It means that you can get these picks. Charlie just trying to spot out the Baron, but the True Shot barrage takes him down.
Yeah, goodbye, Mr. Thresh. Unfortunate for you. And then as the play goes a little bit later, Anko-chan thinks, the Baron started. I can go and contest this. Primo says, no, we're already ready to turn, my friend. And just got to run away. You've already blown that Trundle ultimate. And now Momo caught in a side lane.
We've seen this before. Momo having to 1v3. It didn't turn out too well for the CJ top laner before. And it doesn't look like it's going to be going any different this time around, Good shutdown for Ricky, who's continuing to scale on this Gwen.
I think Momo ended up missing the hookshot wall dive there against the wall, so unfortunate there for the CGA top laner. But getting caught out there is a very awkward situation now for them, because it means that he is going to be dead temporarily, meaning that you're not going to be able to push with the Baron buff. However, with Wasteland at the top side and no teleport on the Vladimir's running the Ignite spell, you have to consider that this Ocean Dragon is going to be forfeited over to the side of CGA, meaning that they're going to be on Soul Point.
Yeah, so this is the Soul Point Dragon. I didn't realize that the Hawks had already taken one. My bad. I apologize.
I didn't say anything. I
hope you can forgive me, dear viewer. But CGA will be able to pick up Ocean Soul Point, so maybe not as quick as they would have liked, but it's still putting you on track for a 29-minute Ocean Soul, which is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about what that means in terms of the items, it means realistically you're getting half an item, maybe a full item if you get, accelerated by absorbing all the gold and getting a couple kills. So for the side of... Oh, CJ.
Oh, Wasteland, you do not want to be here. Hextech ultimatum drop down. The Ignite ticks. And Wasteland will fall again. Another solo kill for Momo on this Vladimir. And with the TP still available, it means that CGA can push down in this bot side and their top laner can join them if they so wish.
Yeah, Momo has taken control of this game. And it's been beautiful to watch, honestly. Yes, getting caught out a couple times in the side lane, but every 1v1 has been won from this Camille. And SHG now, they're bleeding out. The Mystic shots are coming through. The damage onto Howler. You gotta back up, my friend, because as I said before, you can't have your shield bro poke like that because you can't actually get any health back. So gotta go back to the fountain. A free inhibitor donated here to the side of CGA, and with that, they're gonna be in a really good spot now as they've got that bot lane inhibitor down. Ricky will have to stay on the bottom side now because that Baron is going to spawn during this inhibitor's sort of death time.
Yeah, still a few minutes though until that one pops up. We're gonna get a replay of this 1v1. It's just Wasteland walking a little bit too far up and Momo going for the punish.
Yeah, Wasteland playing for that Scuttle Crab. Big important stuff here when we are 23 minutes.
Oh, he better get it. Okay, he does get it. Okay, it's worth.
Oh yeah, everyone knows that crab is important when you're not playing towards the top side at all. And Wasteland gets completely punished for it. Doesn't dodge the Hextech ultimatum with the pull, which you can do as the Vladimir. Ends up messing up the timing of that one, and as such gets punished. Well there from the side of Momo. It's just a free pickup.
Yeah, as we saw, the slow from Chico's True Shot Barrage has now picked up the Sharilda's Grudge. 3 items on the Ezreal, who we thought was going to be weak-siding a lot of this game, but turns out got the most kills. Has been playing very aggressively. The number of times I've seen Chico Arcane shift forward, probably about a dozen times now, has been very aggressive on that pick. And the Hawks aren't really in a place where they can punish him for doing so.
Yeah, the Hawks don't really have that backline access that they needed to have with Ricky and Wasteland coming in from the flanks. They can't get flanks if you can't get vision control, and you can't get vision control if you're down 11,000 gold. There's no opportunity to do so, and CGA, they're waiting, they're watching in case someone steps a little bit too far, and in a game state where you can't engage, CGA's composition is infinitely winning because of the amount of poke that they have.
As we saw Spears landing as the hook lands actually from Charlie. It's a 2-person flay. Funawi goes golden and means he stays alive for a little bit longer. Primo also drops golden as Wasteland flashes forward but isn't able to get the damage that he needs. Kaito coming down on the backside lands the huge Vanguard's Edge into the stun as well. And the Hawks thought they had the drop on CGA, but it's the other way around as it's another kill going over to Kaito. And Howler is forced to run, the lone member of the Hawks alive. And CGA will just be looking to end the game here.
Yeah, Howler versus Funawi, the jungle versus AD carry, and Funawi's just stopping the bases. Wait, Funawi didn't miss a single spear.
Okay, kind of cracked.
Not one of them sidestepped. Okay, Howler DCs, we know this one's done. CGA, they play the fight well, they play it absolutely to perfection, and credit where credit's due. Kaito found a beautiful flank on this Aurelia, landing that backline access we talked about just a moment ago, and it's going to be a nice pickup for CGA. Goodbye, Hawks.
Yeah, it was a valiant attempt by the Softbank Hawks, but CGA were ultimately just too strong. They are going to be continuing on to our final tomorrow, going up against the winner of our next game, which I believe is V3 Academy versus DFM. I tell you what, that was an incredibly clean game versus what was meant to be our third best team in the entire league.
Yeah. I mean, credit where credit's due, right? That isn't the CGA we're used to seeing, to me at least. I expect them to win, but I
Hmm.
don't expect them to win through solid macro and choking the enemy out so they can't actually counterplay. That's not something we tend to see very often, and it's something that they did to perfection, really. I mean, we saw the Baron setup, right? You set
Hmm.
up correctly, the enemy has to walk into you, and eventually the Hawks, they get a bit restless, they get a bit worried, they step up, and it's a kill onto the Thresh. You go, okay, they're probably going to turn now. Anko-chan walks up, there's a hook, there's a spear, there's a Trundle having to use ult and run away, and at that point, there's no contest available. So it feels as though if you are a CGA fan, this is exactly what you want to see. It shows the growth and development of this roster. And even if we're not talking about just this tournament, in general, if you want to see these guys being picked up by those proper LJL rosters, this is the kind of growth that we need to see in these players.
I mean, Chico was an absolute beast that game. You're not supposed to get 2v2 kills when you're playing Ezreal. But he did that multiple times. His skill shot accuracy was also incredible. Funawi on the Nidalee, first time he's pulled it out this entire split, looked very, very good on that, especially as we got later into the game. And Momo, whilst he overextended a little bit, which, like, obviously you're fine to do that, Momo. We all have our Momo moments, but it was a very solid performance from him, and really showed the aggression that he's known for.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing stuff there overall from the entire roster of CGA, right?
Yeah.
There isn't a single member that you can look at who didn't pull their weight, so I like to see this sort of proactivity coming through from them to pick up that win and secure their place in the final here. And that does mean that they're going to be here to play off against either V3 or Detonation Focus Me Academies. And I mean, it's going to be an exciting matchup either way, but I'm definitely interested to see how that one does end up playing out.
Well, definitely, because DFM has been a team that has ramped up throughout the course of the tournament, but V3 felt like they haven't needed to ramp up throughout the course of the tournament because they have just been so dominant right from the get-go. We are going to be popping to a short break, but after that, Marswan and Counterfeit will be taking you through our second semi-final of the day, V3 Academy versus Detonation Focus Me Academy. Don't go anywhere.